China is consistently being used as the success story for the financial world. It is often reported that China will have perpetual growth and that there can be no conclusion to an ever-growing economy. When there are problems, have no fear, because Superman will always be there to save those in need. Right? Well, you came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to look at China. I want to first get into the fact that I understand that China is growing faster than most economies in the world, particularly in the West, but you have to remember that they've slowed down considerably. And then you understand on top of that, that they are engaging in the most massive public works projects that have ever been created in the history of the world. And you have to look at this all and break it down for what it is. I do believe that China will be growing for years into the future, but there will be setbacks along the way. That's something that we need to come to terms with. In my book, I talk about the success story of China, so I'm not against it. Let's be very clear here. So I wanted to look at this here. Rising defaults in China are unearthing hidden debt at companies across the country. And this is what is often overlooked in most media, and I'm glad that Bloomberg has it here, but of course you'll never see that on the front page news, and you will never see that even brought into the alternative news most of the time. Small firms that can't get loans by themselves have been winning banks over by getting other companies to guarantee their borrowings. The companies make those pledges, exclude them from their balance sheets. I love that. So, of course, you try to do this and it's illegal, leaving creditors in the dark. Borrowers often extend their guarantees for each other, raising the risk that failures could ricochet at a time when increasing borrowing costs have already added to the strains. Why is this allowed to go on? That's what I can't help but find it funny. Now, they say it here, China's banking regulator ordered checks of such cross-guaranteeing loans. And it will definitely continue on there, and they're just giving you examples of it. Look, the government knows these things are going on. Look at what's happening, for example, in Canada right now, where you have these liar loans that are pushing the market up. You look at what happened during the housing crisis, prior to the subprime housing crisis in the US. They overlooked all of this data intentionally because they said, look, if we just don't say anything, maybe this will just continue to rise. It'll work itself out in the long run. It doesn't work like that. Of course, you and I know that, but we are the ones who have to be there to essentially feel the worst of it all. That's what concerns me. People think, you know what, forget it. I don't care. If they want to make money off it, sure, I'll ride the wave. It doesn't work like that. You and I are the ones that always seem to get the short end of the stick, at least historically that is. Look at this. Around 24, mainly small listed Chinese companies, have taken the unusual step of urging their employees to buy shares in a bid to, this is not my words, prop up stock prices and help fend off the collateral calls on stock-backed loans. And in fact, I believe that stocks had risen after this report was put out. Can you believe that? Okay, we're doing terribly. Do you mind filling in the void and giving us money? That's the kind of thing that we see all the time. Buy our stocks. We can't afford to right now, but it's going to pay off for you later down the road. Just hang in there. Don't sell. Don't sell. And this is the kind of thing that nobody is looking at, or they're choosing to ignore it. In many cases, workers are stepping up, attracted in part by guarantees that their principal is safe. Oh, I'm sure it is. I can't believe that somebody would do that. Look, if you want to invest in it, that's fine. But to be told that your money is safe, that's usually the first sign that it's not safe. All right. The Shenzhen Stock Exchange, where all but one of the companies are listed, has taken notice and has issued guidelines requiring companies to provide details on their guarantee plans. They are ultimately going to have to be able to front that money, or basically give back that money. And I'm not sure if the stock market declines if they're going to be able to do that. So people, again, unfortunately, I hope they're not getting suckered in, but it seems to be the way it is. And usually this is old news, but I wanted to show you this for a reason. China's central bank has emerged as a key player in the nation's stock market rescue. And what they're talking about here in this article, I'm sure I covered it previously, at least more than once anyway, that China, just like other central banks, have been engaging in monetary easing, and they have been not only doing their form of quantitative easing, they have been engaging in buying shares of the market. What more dangerous way to prop up your stock market, to prop up your economy, or so you think, than to buy shares, having the central bank buy shares? What a foolish concept. If the stock market needs to decline, the central planners should back away, allow it to happen, and then watch the recovery process. It's a natural cleansing process that's supposed to occur so that the sickness goes away and bringing in the new. It's like springtime, okay? But that's not allowed to happen because the central planners are there. You know, it was Nassim Taleb who said if it was up to the central planners, there would only be one season with the weather, so that they can predict exactly what would happen later down the road. Well, that is something I completely agree with, and that's the insanity of it all. So China's just one of many. Central banks have bought $1.5 trillion in assets. Hold on, wait, how far away, how long ago was that? Well, year to date, 2017, we're halfway through the year and already accumulating a total of $1.5 trillion in assets. But you told me, so many people in the comments, you told me everything was okay. That's what I was told. Everything is just fine. Yet $1.5 trillion in assets needs to be purchased? No. Everything's being covered up right now. And many people believe that they don't care. They understand the central banks are propping up the market, and it's a simple matter of fact as riding the wave. And you may be watching your assets appreciate. And I think that's a great thing. I think we all need to be able to accumulate wealth and then, of course, do something with that. You know, having shares in JP Morgan isn't exactly going to do you any good unless it's paying you some sort of dividend or what have you. But you're simply funding the technocrats. And I don't agree with that, but that's up to you. But you need to get something that ultimately will pay you passively. You need to get that passive income. That's important. So if you're trying to ride the wave here, I think that everybody would need to pay very, very close attention to what is underlying all of this. And then just to finish this off, we're looking right here. It might be really hard to see with a small font. All of these companies are right now having some very difficult financial issues, going bankrupt, and they are restructuring debt. And you're looking at fairly big companies, in fact. If I could just go through here, 99 cents only store, which I found was interesting. You're looking at J. Crew and 9 West and Sears, and it goes on. There are many here, and they're trying to restructure the debt. And what I find very interesting is that, number one, it always gets worse as time goes on. And if look at the example out of Europe, you see that ultimately the taxpayers are the ones who have to pay the bills. And that's something that I worry about all the time. Look, the economy is not doing well, okay? The stock market is doing well. But we know the stock market is doing well because the central banks have been buying up shares. Then they engage in stock buybacks. In the case of China, they make their company workers buy up the shares of the stocks. To me, this is not a good economy. I don't care what anybody says. Look at the poverty. Walk along the streets and tell me if you haven't seen more homeless people on your streets than they were there 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I think it's an epidemic personally, how much suffering is going on right now. You will ultimately see that in the tent cities that have appeared. You see that with people that are actually poor, but because of the way that the calculations are and everything else, they don't end up below the poverty line. They don't actually qualify for, you know, some sort of social assistance, but technically they can't actually make ends meet. That's what we're living in today. That's the truth, and I'm glad that you stuck around to hear me ranting and raving. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it pushes these videos higher up in the YouTube search ranking, so I appreciate that very much. And last but not least, if you found this video informative, I know you will find my books, The Money GPS and my new release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. The first book is about the 4 asset classes and how to profit from it. I get into China as well in that book. In the new book, it takes on familiar concepts, but I get into other things like becoming self-sufficient in what I call the Money GPS strategy. So you can look through the books at Amazon. The link is in the description. You can also check out the audiobook I have on my website, themoneygps.com. And if you're still here, check this out. My new t-shirt. I think I'm going to tweak it a little bit, but this is basically how it'll be. It's a rough copy right now. Don't steal. The government hates competition. I love this t-shirt. I think it is very simple, but it sends a very good point, and it'll definitely start a few conversations with a few people who are, let's just say, soldiers or loyal to their government. So that should be an interesting shirt to wear around. I'll let you know when that is available. If you're interested in the t-shirts, they are in the description here. You can see that it's from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. Take care.